Okay, test 20, rookie. Okay, we're going to do another flight here. Haven't made a recording in a while. I'm going to test my volumes again. Okay, this flight is going to be on 1.45. I have my reservations about this version, and it's mainly because starting in 1.44 they changed the RCS thruster sound and the sound of the retro rockets when stage separates. I personally don't like the new sounds. It's a little more higher pitched, a little more raspy sounding. I prefer the other sound better with more of a lower pitch. Hopefully I'll be able to capture that in this video and you'll be able to compare it to one of my previous ones, see what the differences are. Okay, let's go ahead and take off and see how we're going to do volume wise. I have to remember to keep this mic about a foot away, which is produces about the sound that I like. If I go any closer than a foot, I start sounding a little bit too bassy, and it sounds a little unnatural for me. You know, this is for me listening to my own voice. So a foot away seems to be about the area I like it the best. I'm going to be hearing these new sounds I was talking about as soon as the first the two boosters separate. You'll hear this sound. It sounds different than in 1.43. Still got a ways to go yet. Broke down and got me a new chair. Every time I was making videos with my old one, you'd hear every time I moved, you'd hear it. You'd hear the squeak, and I could not get rid of it because the squeaks were coming from the chair itself and not anything metal. So it was about time I had to retire that guy. Went over to Staples and got me a cheapie, something that was comfortable enough for me. And at least this one's quiet. Okay, you're going to hear these new sounds here in a second when this separates. And that was it. Yeah, still getting used to that. I don't know why they decided to change that up. The other sound, again, you just watch any of my previous videos, and they're all with the older version, and you'll hear the difference when the first stage separates. You're also going to hear the difference when we get into orbit, and the RCS thrusters start firing because it's the same sound. So for me, the way I play this game, you know, I was on a forum talking about this, and the guys commented and said, "What's the big deal? The only time you use RCS thrusters is when you dock." And I kind of tripped out on that a little bit. and it made me think that the way I play this game is a whole lot different than the way a lot of other people play it. Because for me, the RCS thrusters is probably the sound that I use the most in the whole game. And it's because I spend the majority of my game like right here, right what you're seeing right now, in space. And I think a lot of other people are spending more time in the game, in the map, you know, plotting courses, and of course they're going to turn all their sounds off. And then they're, you know, for somebody who plays the game like that, it's probably not going to be as big a deal. But for somebody who plays it like this, where I'm in space and I'm watching the journey the whole way, well, you're going to hear those thrusters every time the ship makes a change of position. And even to stabilize the position they're already in, the thrusters are going to have to continuously fire. So I kind of tripped out on that comment a little bit. Made me think I'm a strange guy that plays this thing in a strange way, or the other dude was. Don't know which one. All I know is how I play the game, and that's how I play the game. Gonna have another separation. You're gonna hear that sound again. There it is. I did this lander a little bit different than I did my other one, and I used the fixed landing legs from the FASA LEM, and it normally attaches a little bit differently than the way I have it attached. And you're going to see here, this would normally attach at the top, and then this part of the legs would attach right here, so it would attach on the whole surface. I can't get it to attach on the whole surface because if I did, the legs would be too high for the rocket, and the rocket would hit the ground before the legs did. So I have to make some adjustments. If I want to use these legs, I have to make various adjustments depending on what craft I'm going to put it on. So what I did was, look here, you'll see them when it's extended, I put struts on all four corners of every leg. Gives it a little bit different of a look. Didn't need them, because all it needed was these two attachment points. But it just looks kind of weird. See, I have it attached to the bottoms also, so you can see all the way around. Gives it a little bit nicer look, even though they don't need to be there. It just looks nicer. It makes it look like that it's really attached rather than just kind of floating there. The reason I put these on is I might be on the minority on this one too, but I do not like the LT1 and the LT2 legs. It's really the only legs. Okay, here we're going to hear the thrusters again now. Get ready to shut off. I don't like those legs. Those are the stock legs, and you don't have much other choices besides those. And the reason I don't like them is because they have this hydraulic action going on. They're not fixed legs. These here are fixed legs. They don't have any hydraulics to them, meaning they're hard. So when it lands, the whole spacecraft lands as a unit, and it hard lands. That's the way I like it. To me, that's the most realistic. Here we're going to go with the thrusters again. And there's that new sound. You know, it's a high-pitched sound rather than a lower-pitched sound that it was before. From what I've been able to see from me posting on forums, I hate this sound a lot more than a lot of other people do. But that's just me. And you can see how you're hearing them, you know, even for this thing to stay stationary. So these thrusters are certainly used for more than just docking. Of course, I'm playing this game with Mechjeb. It's just personally the way I play it, so this style of play, there they go again, may be totally different than the way somebody else plays it. And of course, this one is pretty loud because you can see all the thrusters I have on here. Now, if I'm flying a smaller craft, you know, that has half as many thrusters, well, then it's not going to be as pronounced as it is right now. But I fly all different craft. I fly smaller ones and I fly big-o-ass ones like this. So, more thrusters you need. I'm not really using any reaction wheels. I'm sure if I played around with those a little bit, I would need less thrusters to move around. But again, this is just kind of the way I'm choosing to play. Now, what I was saying earlier about the legs. The stock game has those two legs, and they're hydraulic, meaning they're like shock absorbers. I don't like it because there's no way to turn it off. I've heard earlier versions of the game you could actually turn that off, but you can't anymore. So you're stuck with it. So that means whenever you land, it doesn't just hard land. You know, it would be one thing if hydraulic action worked the way it should, where it would just settle, where the legs would collapse a little bit and just settle for a nice soft landing. But that's not the effect in this game. What happens is the leg collapses as you land, and then it springs back. So you've got this little pogo stick action going on. It lands, springs compress, it pops back out, and the craft comes off the ground a little bit. And sometimes it'll do it 2 or 3 times. And I just do not like it. I just don't like the effect of it. It's not realistic to me. And many times as I've done landings, and I have to kind of put up with that each time when using those legs. When you use these legs here that I'm using, the fixed legs, you don't get that pogo stick action going on. When it lands, it sticks. And one of the things screwy this thing did with the stock legs on it, the LT2, when I would land on the moon and picture the LT2 legs on here, when I go to blast off, there's a separator here, so it would separate and blast off all at once, and the ascent stage would separate from the descent stage. Well, what was happening with those legs is from the kick from the motor onto the descent stage on the ground, this guy would take off, but then you would look down and you would see this guy, the legs would collapse, and then they'd spring back up, and this thing would float off the ground 2 or 3 feet, fall back down, spring back up. And it would do that 3 or 4 times, up and down, as the ascent stage is taken off. Almost ruined the moment for me when I saw that. I said, "You've got to be kidding me. Why is Squad putting that kind of crap in this game to make it look like that?" So the only way for me to get rid of it was to change legs. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of options to change legs. These are the only other ones I got. If there's more out there, I don't know about them yet. But I'm interested in fixed legs, not hydraulic legs. I don't want no kind of shock absorber. If you was to take this craft and build it, take these legs off, build girders, attach them to the side, and just build the girders down about the same length as, say, that these extend, and build a girder all the way down, a girder over here, a girder over there, a girder over there, where they look like legs. It would look like shit, but it would land perfect because it's fixed. So when you land, it would land. You wouldn't have any of this bouncing stuff going on. Only the stock legs do that. If you build anything, like if you're going to build your own landing legs, set out of girders or whatever, it's going to be fixed, so it's not going to bounce. That's what I'm after right there. I don't want any bounce. That's not how it would really be. It's like, how would I explain this? This is the feeling I get with the stock legs. It's like the spacecraft is made out of rubber and it has no mass. It's like the legs have the appearance to take the mass out of the spacecraft. So when it hits the ground, you don't get the sensation that it has any weight to it, any mass. You know, that's going to be dependent on gravity, but you still have mass. It's still going to have some weight. And with those hydraulic legs going on, I mean, I can kind of see the theory behind it, but the actual implementation in this game is terrible. You just don't do it right. I mean, it's one thing to collapse a leg, but you don't extend it back out and make it lift the spacecraft off the ground. That's where it just goes cattywampus for me. So you can either, like I said, build girders, or find you, I'm still looking for some alternatives of different kind of landing legs that I can choose from that are fixed legs without hydraulics going on. Okay, you can see by my orbit right here, I'm pretty cattywampus here, so I'm going to make a little adjustment. I'm going to fine tune this guy. See, that's going to put me a lot better where I want to be. See, there's that RCS sound again. You can see what it's having to do just to stabilize this craft. Now I guess, I could probably try to choose all reaction wheels if I wanted to go that route and try to eliminate all of these RCS thrusters. I don't want to do that. Uh, the RCS thrusters is more how it would really be anyway. I mean, this game takes giant liberties with reaction wheels, to tell the truth. It does way more with reaction wheels than could ever be done in real life. Okay, now I have an encounter. In fact, before I get there, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my third stage. Now you can see that craft is moving with me that I separated from. Okay, for the sake of this video, I'm not doing this as realistic as I should have. When I separate right now, see, I have to transfer some guys from here into the landing craft. Before I did that, I should have undocked, because see, I have a separator. Excuse me, I have a separator. And when I separate it, I'm going to have this the separator out there. I'm going to have some space junk, because it's orbiting the moon right now, so it's going to stay there. Before I started my maneuvers, if I would have undocked, spun the landing craft around and docked, then I would have got rid of that separator. And it would have been on a trajectory, you know, now that I think about it, that might not have worked. It might not have been in a trajectory to crash land on Minmus. See, I'm thinking of the moon, and it would have been, but here I think it would have still be space junk anyway. But anyway, if I would have spun it around, it'd be more realistic, because you're transferring some Kerbals from here straight into here. You know, like a real airlock here. It's kind of a little weird. You know, to tell the truth, you wouldn't really be able to do that like I'm doing it. I would have to take them out and spacewalk them around. But for the sake of the game, since I didn't do that, I'm going to go ahead and transfer them. So I'm going to put 2 of them in that guy. So I'll have 1 in the mothership, just like the Apollo mission. There goes that separator. Get our landing gear out. Okay, now you're going to see what I'm talking about here when I said I put the struts on there. See my struts? Those struts are kind of hard to put on. Let me get in here. when you're attaching it to right there. See, I'm attaching it to both of these places because these are just floating out here. So you can see right there, see how it gives the appearance a little bit more that they're actually attached rather than just up here. I didn't do a very good job though. You can see my angles are weird. Kind of got in a hurry because it doesn't want to play nice. You know, that's kind of not a natural attachment point for these struts. And then when you put them up here, half the times they'll take and half the times they won't. So it took me a little while to get all of them on there. You can see I kind of flubbed that up a little bit. I got, when I have more patience, I gotta kind of go in there and do a little better job. Okay, I got my spot close enough so I can land beside it. It's a Minmus base. That's where we're going to be going. See, now you can get an idea. See, that's why I had to run the legs down, because I wanted to get some distance between the bottom of the motor, rocket motor, and the bottom of the legs. It looks like I had some room. I could have went up a little bit. I have to play with that some more. See, I'm trying to visually eyeball that. Actually, I think I might have could have made that work. But see, I don't know if this is wide enough. Try to get another angle at this. If I would have moved this to the top, I'm not sure this bottom right here would still have made it. I still might have been out here a little bit. But as long as those struts are on there, it kind of looks cool. And the landing is just going to be so much nicer. I just scratch my head sometimes on some of the things the squad does in this game, and these landing legs are one of them. I mean, to me, I'm trying to look at it like logical, the way I think, and I think, well, why couldn't they have just made some options with the legs to either have hydraulic legs or to make them fixed, to lock them in place where they didn't, where there was no hydraulic action going on? Why couldn't they have done that? And I've actually heard that in earlier games, earlier versions of this game, before I was playing it, that they actually had an option to do that. Well, they don't any longer. And there's a config file, for tweakers, where you can go into the game and look at the landing leg config files, but I'll be damned if I can make sense out of it. I can't tell what the settings do because I've went in there and mucked around with them and tried to change some of the values, but because I'm not sure what does what, I've not had good results. I've come back into the game and just had weird stuff, either landing legs breaking or clipping down into the earth like halfway up the leg, and I've ended up having to go back to the stock settings because every time I try to change it, it just has unforeseen consequences, shall we say. I think those legs actually look pretty cool, if you don't pay a lot of close attention to detail to see my struts that I put on there aren't symmetrical on how they're angled. It actually kind of looks cool. Or you should say, to me it does. There's my big slowdown right there because it just picked up my my Minmus base, which is kind of high on the part count. That's the one other area of this game that could use some improvement is part count. With today's video cards and processors, you should be able to make this thing where you'd have unlimited part count without any slowdowns, because you don't have a lot of things going on. You would think there should be a way to have part counts galore and still have your frame rates up. You can see now by looking at this, my frame rates are taking a nosedive because of the part count. Because the game is having to process all those parts, even though we can't see them. They're right there. So that could use some work too, because for me, I play a lot of power-hungry games. Far Cry 5, Ghost Recon, just stuff that is taking a lot of horsepower to run, where you got a million things going on every second. Not so with this game. So there shouldn't be any reason why you couldn't just build a space station any size you want, because it's not like all these things are moving at once. And right now with this game, it's kind of a trade-off. When you're building a space station or a moon base, you want to build it as big as you can, but the bigger you build it and the more parts you put on it, whenever you get close to it, you're going to get performance like this. And then to get good performance, then you build this little old rinky-dink space station or base that doesn't have any detail to it, just so you can keep your frame rates up. So to me, they should be able to do a little something about that. Alright, let's see how the landing is going to be on these legs. And this is Minmus, which has a lot less gravity than the moon does. Now, see? For me, that's the way a landing is supposed to be. You didn't, if I would have had those LT2 legs on there, it would still be bouncing right now. And it would actually clip through the ground, and it would like disappear for a second, then it would pop back up. You got that, you know, that yo-yo action going on. And then it would settle down like, again, like the spacecraft didn't have any mass, like it didn't have any weight to it. Totally unrealistic. Now you can see with this one, it had the illusion of weight. It would be just like if you're playing a game, and you can tell, you can tell on what game has more effort and more thought put into it and more precision. I'll give you an example. When you see a soldier walk over to a weapon and the weapon is on the ground, well, there's some games where he can reach over and pick it up and it's just like him picking up a feather, and it's like there's no real sense of physics to it. And then there's a real well-made game where he would bend over and he would pick up the weapon and you would have a sense that that thing weighed about 15 pounds. You know what I'm saying? You guys playing the games, you know what I'm talking about. It's just that sense of physics and that sense of weight that you, when he would grab it, you would just feel it. And that's how this game is too, with those funky legs. It's like they took all of the weight out of it, the feeling of weight when you look at it. So you're doing all this work and you're going to land this thing, and then you have to settle for that little toy-like action at the, you know, at the end when this thing is bouncing on the ground, you know, like it weighs a pound, and it's got these shock absorbers pushing this thing up and down, off the ground, back on the ground, off the ground, back on the ground. It just ruins it. Just totally ruins the immersion for me. And Y Squad is not picking up on that. You know, I just slap myself in the face because I can't figure it out. Because they put so much effort and so much detail into other parts of the game, and then to let that get away from them like that, it's just, I just don't get it. You know, I don't get the thinking process, and I don't get these guys that are playing that game. I mean, I don't know if the guys at Squad have you know, a bunch of 10-year-olds in there playing that game, where they actually think it looks cool when the spacecraft comes down and it bounces off the ground like a pogo stick 5 or 6 times and lands, and then you take off and it's wobbling like a toy. And I don't know if the teenagers are looking at that going, whoa, gee whiz, that looks so cool. I don't get it. You know, just don't look cool to me. Okay, enough of my rambling on landing legs. Because, don't get me wrong, I love the hell out of this game. And I play this game more than any other game I own. And that's probably one of the reasons why I ramble about some of the things I don't like. And that's the reason, because I'm so passionate about the game. I'm so passionate about space travel that, you know, I pick these little things apart because they just rub me all wrong. I mean, goddammit, if I'm gonna play a space game, there's certain things that they gotta get right. and there's just a couple little things in this game, although for the most part they get them right. Some things they just do not get right. I hope somebody from Squad's watching this. Yeah, like, shot in hell, that's gonna happen. Okay, let's talk about my base, because I don't have, I think this is the first video I've made with this base. Okay, now look at this. This was what I was talking about. See, there's the L2 legs. Now this is the same mission that I'm flying now that I flew previously when I had the L2 legs on it. So same exact craft, just with those legs on it. Now and I mentioned this earlier, I could not take off. In this particular mission, this particular craft, I could not take off. Because what would happen was, this guy would separate and he'd lift off about this high off the ground. His rockets are firing, he's going up, up, up. And the force of the rocket, you know, you could see these legs. See, I can't extend them now, but they're out here and they got the hydraulic thing on, like a shock absorber. Well, the shock absorber right here would collapse. And as this guy's trying to lift off, this shock absorber on this descent stage is going down, and then it's springing back up. And that's the part that aggravates the shit out of me. It springs down, and then it springs up off the ground, where the bottom of the legs are about this high off the ground, and this stage runs into this stage as he's trying to blast off and destroys it. Now, if that ain't some shit, I don't know what the hell is. I'm sitting there, I'm cussing, I'm screaming, I'm yelling, I'm screaming a bunch of squad profanities and all kinds of shit for letting something like that happen. And I must have tried it 10 times in a row, every which way I could possibly think of, to get this guy to blast off without these springs contracting and shoving this guy back up into the air into the tail end of this rocket before he could clear it. And the only way I could do it is this. I had to retract the legs, so you could picture this guy's right here with the legs retracted, and the rocket's just, the whole thing is just sitting on the ground. It's set like that, no problem. So the whole thing's set there with no legs on it, and then I could take off as normal. I could take off with the ascent stage. He would separate from right here, and this guy would not move. He would be steady as a rock, and this guy would just like it's supposed to be. And there's the remnant. There's my fuck up. There's my flipping the bird at you squad. When I have to come down and look at this and remember the kind of bullshit I had to go through to launch that guy back into orbit, not strand these little guys. Okay. I was trying to show this thing off, and I guess I could either do a few things. I could take a guy out. In fact, let's just do that. slideshow. Damn. All because of this guy. I wanted to show off the space station. I'm trying to figure out different ways to do it. I'm just going to decide to go over here and do it. And holy moly, is this a slideshow. Got over a little over rambunctious with this little base. Not very big a base. Show it in a little more detail here in a second. But it's got a high part count. A lot of detail in this thing. And see, that's, you suffer. I have a GTX 770. Kind of an older video card with 4 gigabytes of memory. Then I have a i770K, 3770K. Couple generations old, but still got plenty of power. And I'm just going to leave this guy here. I'm just going to go back with one guy. Okay, now I can show off the space station in a little bit more detail. Okay, check that sumbitch out. Right in the middle, those are 4 fully assembled, fully functional VASA Apollo LEMs. Count it, 4 of them bad guys. If I wanted to get in one of these and blast off from this descent stage right now, I could do it. Not a problem. Of course, I'm not going to do it because then it would screw my space station up. But look at that guy. Look at the size of those tanks. This thing is humongous. I wanted to keep a low profile with it, so I slanted all my solar panels flat rather than up. And you can see it's made out of girders, which looks cooler than hell. And then on the outside, I have all my living quarters. Now here's all the guys that are in there now. Got a few guys in there. And you just point to them. This is with this portrait stats mod, and it'll show where they're at. But that's, I'm pretty proud of this little guy. It took me considerable time to build this sumbitch. And there's the guy that's responsible for me getting up here, called HyperEdit. If you haven't heard of that mod, and you want to put stations like this on any planetary body, there's your guy right there. Now of course, it doesn't build this for you. You still have to build it. And you just build it in the spaceplane hangar and build it complete just like you want. So it's only limited by your imagination and how much time you want to put in it. So I built quite a few of these guys on Minmus and Moon. They're all different from each other. Every time I go in to create one, I go, okay, what can I do that's different from the other one? So I just sit there and come up with something. And you can see why my part count's so high. I mean, even the part count on just one of these guys is pretty high. And let alone all these other little details I got in here. You can see underneath all my towers, my battery packs. And again, these things are time consuming to just build girders and to try to end up getting them square and to try to get everything all to line up when you start connecting stuff to them. You know, I got some hours in this station. So then once you build it, then you use HyperEdit to put it in orbit and then to bring it down. So a tip for anybody using this, when you go to put it in orbit and getting ready to bring it down on a planet, go into your cheats and turn off your damage control in your joints, your breakable joints. Make sure you turn both of those on and then do it, because on the way down there's no thrusters. You're just basically free falling, and you have some limited control to try to get it, you know, make sure it's not upside down or whatever. But if you don't have those on and you try to do this, probably you're going to do all that work, and then probably when you get it down, especially if you're like the little cattywampus and you're not quite flat as you're coming down, so you're kind of at an angle like this, probably going to break this thing apart when it comes down. So you got to remember to do that. And then the other little mod that I like is Vessel Mover, where once you get it down, then you can pick it up and move it to wherever you want on the planet. So, you know, I use both of those because, you know, I'm all about the experience of the journey. So it just tickles the hell out of me when I come to a planet to come back and visit this guy. In fact, you can see some of my previous ones. There's one that I actually managed to lift off. In fact, there's got the Faso legs on it. That one that's... But when I go to them, I can go check them out. Sometimes they might even be walking distance from each other. I can just jet on over there and check shit out. If I want to bring Kerbals to it, leave them, like I'm going to do now. I'm going to leave that guy. Or sometimes I'll bring like a 6-person craft up here and bring 6 Kerbals up, swap them out, take 6 out, take them home. That's the kind of shit that I love to do. So there's why I do the stuff that I do in this game. So let's go ahead and cycle back to one of these guys. Now see, here's a different one. It's like this one, but this one's bigger. This one's bigger than that one. In fact, this one had a 6 Kerbal capsule on it. So the descent stage was bigger, wider, bigger around than this one, and the capsule was bigger. So the descent stage was also bigger. And you can see I had enough width to attach those legs. In fact, I could have went up a little higher, but you can see they're attaching right at the bottom there. And I cut it close. So you can see I have still some room, but I probably wouldn't want to get it any closer than that. So if I was to have raised this to the top of here, man, see, I mean, I would be borderline. So that's what I chose. See, this one being that it's... Here's my flag. And you can see the one I was talking about. Okay, so you can see this one. It's not as wide. And you can see my legs are way down there. See, the other ones are about right here. So I had to attach them. Yeah, I didn't do too good a job right there either. See right here? I'm not quite attached. I needed to have rotated that. Now that I'm looking at this in flight, I can see my flaws. And, you know, that's what you notice. You fly stuff, and then you notice some things, or you go, I should have done this like this, or I could have done this a little better than this. You know, that's part of the fun of the game. So this just gives me some pointers if I want to go back to this craft in the VAB and tweak it a little bit. get these a little bit better, especially work on these struts. Yeah, my struts aren't angled right. That's the hardest part right there. See, none of them are. Because like I said, it's hard to connect it to this corner and then get it to connect right there. So it's like I jacked around with them, and it's like I put it up here and then I would try to connect it and it would disappear and I'd have to start all over again. So, you know, I got to the point where I got frustrated. Well, once I got it to connect, I just said, hell with it. I'm leaving you there. You're going to stay connected where you go. So, still looks cool. See, if you look at it from right there, it looks neat because see, it looks like it's supposed to be attached. See, and you can't really tell that these two aren't lining up unless I go around the other angle. So that's cool. I'm happy with it. Again, you can see just from landing alone with these legs to land them fixed made all the difference in the world to me, and it makes me keep these legs. In fact, until I find some other legs, these are going to be just on just about every spacecraft I fly. I do have some craft that fly okay with these legs. Not in this map. So I do still use them. It seems like on some craft they behave a little differently than others, but I always still get the pogo stick going on. Again, it's different craft might be more pronounced than another one, or maybe you'd notice it a little bit more. But I just don't like it nonetheless. I don't like it none. Zero. If that thing moves when it lands, I don't like it. If I even get just a hair of a bounce, I don't like it. I just don't want it. And I'm going to do whatever the hell I can to get it out of the game. Alright, let's get this thing ready. Let's go into the map. Let's see where we're at. We're on kind of on the backside. I'm going to give her a little warp. I'm going to try to rendezvous with this guy, so I want to get him in favorable as position as I can. I'm going to go right there. And then I'm going to select him as target. Then I'm going to go back to my flight computer. Do a little staging. Turn this guy off. And turn this guy on. Okay, we're going to go to launch to rendezvous. Let's see how long we got to wait. We got to wait 10 minutes. I'm going to warp a little bit. Okay, I don't see him yet. Now you're going to see too. You're going to see when this guy lifts off, stage separates. That bottom's going to stay solid. It's not going to move. Where with the other legs it would move. I have this set at 11 seconds, so that's when I'm going to engage the autopilot. When this gets to 11 seconds, you can set this to whatever you want. To the bottom, didn't move. God damn it, that's the way it's supposed to be. Fuck you, squad, and your pogo stick bullshit. And I got around it by not using your shit. Thank goodness for mods, or I'd be stuck with that bullshit. There he is. He's a little bit behind me. We'll have to see how direct of a path this is going to be. You know, it just depends on your timing, where you're at, depending on in relation to where the mothership is. Depending on how many maneuvers you're going to have to make to get everything to match up. Well, yeah, see, there's my piece of space junk I was talking about. I'm gonna have to later on in the game go back into the tracking station and get rid of it, because I like to get rid of the only debris I like to keep is the debris that I'm landing somewhere. I don't want to keep any debris that's in orbit anywhere, or you know, getting ready to go to the sun or some crap like that. Like, you know, I go in there. Boy, this is going to be close right here. This is going to 13 kilometers. I hope better save this right here, because I don't know. I don't know where the lowest point is where you're going to re-enter. So we're going to find out. Because this has come out wrong before. Sometimes I would be at the moon and this would show like an establish a new orbit like 5 kilometers. Well, I'm going in. You know, it's not gonna make it all the way around. So let's find out what this guy is gonna do. Maybe at Minmus 13 kilometers will still be high enough. be honest with you, this is probably the lowest that I've tried to go at Minmus. There ain't no way in hell you do this on the moon. You know, you're going to re-enter at that altitude. And we're going to find out if I do on this one. Okay, here we go. Look, we're going to be getting close. Don't go in, dude. Three hours. Okay, now we're going to find out. Now we're going to find out if our orbits, she's going to think it's going to be okay. See, it's going to set up for a new burn. See, now we're lower, so we're catching up with the other guy. So as soon as the computer decides we're in a good spot, then it's going to boost me back up to an orbit that's going to match the mothership. So this is just going to be temporary. And the problem when you're this low is you can only warp so fast. So this 3 hours takes a little bit longer than it would if the orbit would have been higher. I mentioned before, this is stock visuals. I do have quite a few mods. I look at it like I use the mods that's going to give me the experience that I want to play the game. That's what determines if I put a mod in or not. I don't put it in just for the hell of it. But as far as visual mods, I don't have any. This is the stock game as far as visual mods. And I have tried a couple. And I didn't care for them. And I was kind of disappointed because, you know, anything that's going to give me more detail, normally that's what I'm going to go for. But I would put them in, and it would make the surface look a little different, but it would make this out here. See how this looks? I like this look. It didn't look like this. It changed it. It dimmed it out. It wasn't as clear as this. And one of the mods, I think it was the one that had to do with distance. I forgot the name of it. Where you could point mouse over something and it would give you more detail about it. But it would also do this weird thing where, like right here, this would just blank out and I couldn't see it. You know, the Milky Way all the way around. And when I'd move the mouse or the camera to it, it would come into focus. And when I go like this, it would go out of focus. I didn't like it. Because as I'm moving the camera like this, you know, like I normally do, which would be to give me all the views I can get, this thing would be blinking in and out, and I couldn't see as many stars. You know, and the planet would look a little different, especially Kerbin. It did put more detail, like it put some lights in there, put some clouds in it, but I didn't like the overall look of it. I didn't like the color. It kind of dulled out the color. The farther away you got from it, the worse it looked. And I just like, you know, I played it for, I don't know, I played a couple missions like I'm doing now. And when I got back home and got done with it, I went and uninstalled them. And I tried to give them every chance I could, as many angles, as many different places, different experiences, to see if it was going to grow on me, or to see if there was a setting I didn't have right or something. And I just didn't like it. It didn't give me as good a look as the way this looks now. The way this looks now, that's the way I like it. And the other ones didn't do that. You know, maybe they made it look more realistic, but they didn't give me as much of a, they didn't give me the kind of view I liked, so I took them out and went back to stock. And then there's the Big Daddy, you know, the realism overhaul. That's for the big boys right there. I'm a little boy. I'm not ready for shit like that. Because that one, oh, that's a big one right there. Because that one changes everything. That one changes the solar system, the distances, the fuel consumption, the plots, how long it's going to take you to get there. And I haven't even mastered this by a long shot. For me to attempt to try to turn everything upside down and try to learn that system. And then the other thing about that one is it's so involved with the modders and so much stuff in it that you have more of a likelihood something's going to break to use it. That some mods aren't going to work with it. And I just didn't want to go through all that. I said, you know what, this game is running good for me. It's dependable. It's acceptable how it looks. Even though I would like a real solar system, I would dig the holy shit out of that. But I just didn't want to take the chance, and I didn't feel like I was ready for it. To go through all that. You know, to turn the game into as much tweaking as playing. I didn't know if I was ready for it. So, I'm leaving it the way it is. Okay, let's look at this guy. Even though that thing was right there, I had to tweak that a little bit. To get the docking autopilot to not show that message. I'm all about the docking camera. One of my favorite things about the game. Just because it gives me more views. See, more views, more angles. Where is that guy? More of a, I don't know, you know, more of a space experience. And that's what I'm in. I'm into these visuals. You know, this kind of stuff. And some people are more into going places, using the maps, not using any of this flight computer stuff, Mechjeb, like I'm doing. And again, spending, a lot of the videos I watch, of course, they're speeding it up to make the videos, which I don't do on mine. I do mine a full flight in real time. But they spend most of their time in the map, tweaking, doing all this stuff, and that's really not my cup of tea. Not saying anybody's cup of tea is right. What's right is how you like to play the game. And that's kind of the cool thing about this game. I mean, I can talk shit about certain things in it, I talked about earlier, but as far as the game, phenomenal. So I'll give Squad a couple kicks in the shins, but I'm going to give him big time thumbs up for 95% of it. Just for coming up with a game like this that gives you as many options as this does. Being able to, build your own spacecraft from scratch any damn way you want. Don't have to be like Billy Joe's across the street. It can be yours how the hell you want it. Then you fly it how the hell you want to fly it. That's the beauty of this game. Boy, this one, okay, you can see, yeah, you can see what's happening there. Yeah, I could have turned this guy around where he was facing him before I started this autopilot stuff, and I wouldn't be going through all this. See, being that he was faced the opposite way, so this guy had to do quite a few maneuvers to end up docking with this guy. Yeah, see, see, I didn't pay any attention, and I didn't pay enough attention right there, because, see, I kind of defeated the purpose of my docking cameras. I put them up there because I like watching the whole journey of the dock. I just cut most of it out right now because, see, now it's coming in, but it's going to be real short-lived because I'm so close now. See, normally, if I would have spun him around the right direction before I started, I would have been able to watch the whole thing. And see, now I'm just being able to watch just a few seconds of it. Yeah, a whole bunch of things I can do here. Or first thing we're going to do is take this. We only got one guy left, so we're going to go ahead and put him back in the command module. Okay, now different things I can do here. I can undock. I can, because I have a Mechjeb module right there, I can still control this guy without a Kerbal being in it. So if I want to take control of it again after I undock, I can fire the motors one last time and deorbit and send it crashing into Minmus. I'm not going to do that. One of the another little issue with this game is if you did that and you fired it and then you rode it all the way down, sometimes there's a little glitch because there's not very much gravity on Minmus. Sometimes you'll hit the ground, and if you didn't outright destroy yourself right from the beginning, sometimes you'll just sit there and spin for about a half hour before it finally will come to rest and the game will let you take control of it again. And I've actually experienced that before. So now I'm hesitant to ride it all the way down now. So the way I do it now is if I'm going to deorbit, I'll take control of it, I'll fire the rockets that one last time, and then I will transfer back to the other craft real quick before I lose control of it, because once it gets too far away, you're stuck. So I'll transfer control of it, and then I'll go back to the map and I'll see the two orbits, and I can just fast forward it until the inside orbit that's gonna, that doesn't have a periapsis. You can see it disappear because it crashed landed on the moon. And that way you don't have any glitches. So that's generally the way I'll do that. I've actually even had that glitch on the moon too, where it would hit the ground and just keep on spinning for a half hour because it wouldn't destroy itself. And it would just keep on going. And sometimes it would be some tiny ass part that survived. Like let's say this Mechjeb guy. Everything else as you hit the ground would get destroyed, and that Mechjeb piece would still be left, and it would just be spinning wildly, bouncing up, down, and it just wouldn't destruct. So it was like you go into like a loop, like a never-ending cycle. Okay, or I could undock and I could just let him stay in orbit because we're in orbit, so he would just stay in orbit until I went to the tracking station and took him out, or flew another craft up here on a later mission, tried to redock with him, take him back home. There's a lot of things you could do. I could even undock him and try to fly him up to dock him with the space station. I have a space station orbiting Minmus. I could try to do that too. I don't know, depending on if I had enough fuel or not, but I've done that before too. So again, a lot of options, man. A lot of different kind of shit you can do. Just depending on how you feel that particular day when you're playing the game, and how adventuresome you feel like, and how much extra time you want to take, because these missions takes an hour and a half, 2 hours. So sometimes I might want to stretch it in another hour by doing some shit that I wouldn't normally do. Hey, all good. Sometimes I want to cut it short. So for this mission, I'm going to shut him down. I'm going to make sure I'm controlled from the right direction. There's a little glitch right here too. See, I have no fuel tank, even though he's already armed. Like during the warp or something, sometimes it gets lost. So you shut it down, activate it again, and then he pops back up again. Okay, so now let's get out of Dodge. And break free of this orbit. get a little bit closer. See, my plane is way out of whack. We're going to change that a little bit. I'm setting up a periapsis here because I want to go back into Earth's orbit. So I believed I was already on a free trajectory home, where I would just, by the time I got there, wherever I point out happened to be, I would re-enter. But I wanted a little more control over it, so I always like to come back into an Earth's orbit first. And of course, when you're doing that, you better make sure you have enough fuel, because that's a big burn there at the end to try to come back into orbit. And do a little fuel transfer here. Let's check the maps. Wow, that's off a lot. I don't really have to, but just for the hell of it, I'm going to do one more burn. Yeah, I hope this is accurate. I hope I make it. I always try to get back on land. So it looks like it's going to be dicey. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. My fuel tank survived. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And I can't get rid of him. The way I attached it, I can't get rid of him, so I have to write it down. That's why I always make sure I drain this guy, that he doesn't have any fuel in him. In case he burns up. I'm going to try to minimize the explosion. This time he survived. Boom. Just got a double shoot on this guy. He hasn't deployed yet. Normally I like to go triple shoots. This is a real shoot mod. But to go triple shoot, all the shoots would be coming off one side, and it makes the spacecraft cock over about a 45-degree angle, and I didn't care for the look. So I did it. I configured it for 2 single parachutes, and one comes off one side, one comes off the other. You can see it right there. it's a circular, and I clipped it into the craft, and a chute comes off one side and a chute comes off the other side. I would rather have the chute come off in the middle, but that's just not how it's made. Home sweet home, made it. Later, dudes.